Good evening.
Thank you, TVP. Good evening.
So, Gary, let's also start. I'm curious because now we had speculation. There was no word from Putin. In the last sort of hour or so, we finally have Putin break the silence. It's almost 24 hours later. If you listen to his words, he doesn't necessarily directly say that Prigozhin is dead. So how do you interpret his very carefully worded words of condolences in the last sort of hour?
Well, it's very difficult to interpret the KGB thug, just like it was Uncle Joe, Stalin. He would never admit to anything, and he would always be very, very neutral, and as a matter of fact, loving kind of a type of a guy. So this was to be expected. Actually, Putin, I'm surprised Putin made some sort of a comments about it, or at least referred to them in a certain way. But it is a usual KGB trick that they're very vague about what it is. But I think Putin, in his usual state, would not comment anything. But this time, I think he wanted to point out that he killed that guy. And the next guy who's going to challenge him, like Prigozhin did, is going to end up the same way as all the previous challengers ended up dead. With Putin, even the ones that installed them into the power.
Yeah. I saw that earlier today, someone quoting here called Putin the apostle of payback. But at the same time, I can't help but wondering, we still have thousands of Wagner troops, be they spread across Africa, some still in Russia, some still potentially even in Ukraine, 25,000 of them. We've also seen today various memorials popping up, not just in St. Petersburg, but elsewhere around Russia. These men were really loyal to Prigozhin. That was somebody they followed. What do you think? Is this sort of the wild card that will blow up in Putin's face? Are they really going to follow the Kremlin, Putin? Ultimately, they were hard nationalists following Prigozhin. Is that going to be something that's going to maybe explode in Putin's face?
I'm not sure if it is, because they were not really nationalists. I don't think. Some of them were. Some of them were Nazi, Russian Nazis. Many of them were criminals. I think most of them, if you want to identify them, they were mercenaries. So they didn't do it for free. They got paid very, very well, but of course they also died by thousands. They were like a meat fodder in a certain way. So, and they are scattered right now. Some of them are in Belarus, some of them are in the Russian armed forces, some of them are in Africa. So to put them back together, it would take another, I hate to say that word, but Prigozhin was a leader. He did have leadership qualities. So it would take another leader like him to put those criminals together. But on the other hand, on the other side, you have Putin, who's also a criminal. It's just a KGB criminal. So there are two criminals, and when you have two criminals dealing with Stalin, Hitler, anytime you have the criminals dealing with it, one of them ends up dead. There's no way they could partner for a little while, but then, of course, it will end up with only one of them.
Yeah. Obviously, it goes without saying that we probably will not be getting a fair investigation. At this point, even we don't even know fully that Prigozhin is no longer on this planet. It reminds me, in 2019, we also had the same, actually from Russian sources, that there was another plane crash in Africa where he apparently also met his demise, but then he resurfaced. Could this still be something that is out there, that he is, sipping cocktails somewhere in Sochi? Is this another tactic, or is he really gone? What do you make of it?
Well, you're absolutely right. Prigozhin has been in the airplane crash before, and he has died before, and he was reincarnated or arisen again from the grave. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is a certain trick or a certain way to play, and this is why. In a sense, things turned out to be very quickly. It's like Russians right away said, yeah, he was in the airplane. Also, there's his right-hand assistant, the commander, was on that airplane, and they knew everything right away. So everything just kind of turned out to be perfect. It's a perfect storm, you can say. So yes, there's some suspicions of this. I can assure you that the rumors will be that Prigozhin is alive, that he's going to come up. There was a double on the airplane. things like that are going to be going around, just like Osama bin Laden is still, just like, Saddam Hussein is the son of Stalin. These things will never die. But I think the important part is that Prigozhin was dead as soon as he turned away from Moscow, as soon as he retreated. As a political figure, as a military figure, he was dead. Just like Osama bin Laden was dead before we killed him, just the way the Saddam Hussein was dead, and so forth and so forth. They politically die once they go into hiding and once they go on a run. So he was dead before that. It's just his body may be dead or his soul is in hell. But he was, as a political figure, as a figure that was committing all these crimes, was dead 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as also I think we said, we don't know if we'll ever see that body. If we hear that DNA evidence, we might not ever know. Just briefly, last bit at the end, running out of time. Does this ultimately weaken or strengthen Putin?
I think Putin is weakened. I think it's just a matter of time. I think all of these things are weakening Putin. I mean, once he, in 2014, actually in 2008, once he attacked Georgia, he started to weaken himself, and the more
so
he was
on
attacking
weakness,
his neighbors,
on weakness, they will have to end it there, unfortunately.
Right.
Gary, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Gary
as we know,
Tabach.
there's weak people, they attack. Yeah.
Indeed. So something, as you said, rumors will continue. Thank you so much, Gary Tabach, for all those insights today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That concludes our main news service here on TVP World. Much more coming up, so stay tuned. Good night.